So what inspired you to get into acting?
What matters is the story and how you craft it.
You answered a lot of the questions already with that one answer, so that's fine.
Make the work personal to you, but know that what you get back from the industry is never personal.
It's good.
They don't allow it.
Erin, my name's Erin.
Imotech is a caring organisation, Mr. Oliver.
He just smiled at me. He grinned.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favourite podcasting platform. Thank you.
Hi there, welcome to Film Forums. My name is Aisha Bailey and I'm here with a special guest. Could you introduce yourself for me?
Hi guys, I'm Alix Wilton Regan. I'm an actress and I'm a little bit of a writer and I'm a voiceover artist as well.
I didn't even have a toothbrush or a change of clothing until I made some emergency purchases on the Citadel.
And do you have more of an interest in film acting or theatre acting?
I kind of very firmly believe that all of the different mediums have their different pluses and minuses. Obviously, my first love is film because that's what you kind of grow up exposed to a bit more than theatre. But I also love the stage as well.
So how did you get into acting? What was your journey?
I never really wanted to do anything else. I have to be honest. I was one of those kind of precocious and slightly annoying 4-year-olds who made everyone stop what you're doing and look at me in my one-woman rendition of Sleeping Beauty. So I never really wanted to do anything else. And then I think I kind of took like Saturday drama classes when I was about 8. And then I continued that throughout my teens. I went to Sylvia Young, which is a theatre school here. And then when I was 18, I was like, right, that's it. That's my turn to go to drama school. And I never really looked back, but I never wanted to do anything else either. So I think that was easier to have that focus. Do you see what I mean?
So where was it that you studied?
I went to the drama studio in Ealing, which is just literally across the road from Ealing Film Studios. And it was great. It was an 18-month postgrad course. And I think what was really good about the curriculum at the time, I mean, this is going back 10 years, but they had an incredible amount of classes focusing on the different disciplines. So stage work, movement, film and TV, radio. They really covered it all. They prepared us really well to be actors.
When you came out of there, what was your next steps? You know, like how long did it take you to get an agent, for example?
Well, I mean, I immediately went and got a job in a bar, obviously, and then a pub and a restaurant just to pay my rent. Do you know what? I was very lucky because I had actually been in a school production when I was 17. And this agent there from a company called BWH, who are a very well-established agency, they came along to watch me in that. And they actually signed me up as a teenager. And then I went to drama school. And I stayed with BWH after drama school. So I was really lucky that I was already represented, even though I was doing my showcase.
Perhaps you have a wife or girlfriend who could come and pick them up for you?
Cannot accurately recreate the Battle of Agincourt without authentic weaponry!
But then it was just a question of doing the kind of earning your stripes work. So doctors, casualty, the bill, if anyone remembers the bill, earning your stripes and working your way up, I guess.
What was it that inspired you to go from television to cinema?
I mean, everyone wants to be in cinema, I suppose is the honest truth. Everyone wants to be in cinema. And also, do you know what? I think there is a slight, of course, you get to a stage in your career where you have enough power to say no to a project or to field different projects and choose what you're doing. And that generally comes a little later on in life. Initially, when you're starting out, you're so excited to be working and you're so lucky to be working when you've got other friends who maybe aren't booking, for example, that you have a tendency to kind of grab onto everything and say yes because you have the energy to do it, you have the time to do it. And it's really exciting and it's a great way of making friends. I remember meeting some producers at maybe my 3rd feature film, and now he's like a huge bigwig at Netflix, you know, and doing loads of different projects for them. And you sort of rise up through the ranks with people. But unless it involves seriously questionable things, which I will leave to your imagination, but unless it involves seriously questionable things, I think it's okay to say yes to stuff when you're starting out, and just sort of embrace it all.
There seems to be kind of, it's like almost like a controversial issue in the creative industries. What's your take on doing, for example, unpaid work, when you're first starting out to get, your showreel together, or, or do you think that they should always go for paid work only, even if all they have is a headshot? How do you feel about that?
It's a really good question. I did a load of unpaid work when I was starting out, short films, student films, and the likes, and it allowed me to build a showreel. So it depends how badly and how quickly you want to build that showreel. Of course, in an ideal world, all artists would be paid, by which I mean actors, writers, makeup artists, directors. We'd all be being paid to create. But unfortunately, until we live in that world, I think you kind of have to weigh up your options. But, like I said, before I really started working, I worked a day job in a restaurant and a night job in a pub. And because I had those two jobs, I could do the unpaid work. And also everyone loved the glamour of me being a 23-year-old actress. I was like, I can't come in today, I have an audition, sort of being like, I've booked a job, I will be gone for 24 hours, so kind of very dramatically announcing that. And it was probably an unpaid student film, but they kindly would let me go and do it.
Yeah, they don't need to know. It's fine. I mean, it's always funny when people like Google you. They don't know, and then you mention that you do acting or whatever, and then they're like, "Aye, but seriously." And then you're like, "No, seriously, I do." And then they Google you, and they're like, "Oh, you're," and I'm like, "No, I'm not famous. Clearly, otherwise you would have known who I was, wouldn't you?" So it's funny the way that people kind of think of it. I mean, even when you are just like really fighting your way up.
Look at this. I took it from Actaeon. Apollodorus tells me it is a papyrus from the Royal Council, which means the snake is in Ptolemy's court.
Tell us about your recent project.
So I'm in a film called A Nightmare Wakes, which is written and directed by an American director called Nora Uncle. And I get to play Mary Shelley. And the idea of the film is about how Mary Shelley created the story of Frankenstein, which she obviously did, as we all know, and kind of the trials and the tribulations and the turmoils and the heartache that Mary had to go through to bring us this incredible piece of literature, which we still read even today in school. I think it's still on the GCSE syllabus or something, and it's read all around the world and translated into hundreds of different languages. But she really was someone very special, and so it was a real honor to play her. And yeah, it's called A Nightmare Wakes.
Where can people see that?
You can see it from the 4th of February on Shudder, which is an online platform that I'm sure most people watching will know about.
Yeah, and you can get that via Amazon as well, I believe, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and I think they're doing a free 7-day sign-up, which is...
Insert the key.
I haven't inserted it, you cretin!
Incorrect starting procedure.
Right, I'll count to 3. 1, 2...
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So, do you have anything lined up just now?
Before Christmas, I did 2 really nice TV jobs, which was great. I did a job called Tailspin opposite Uma Thurman in my best American accent. Terrifying when you're acting opposite an actual American screen icon. But I was really lucky that I got to do Tailspin before Christmas. And actually, I got to do another project, interestingly, about Mary Shelley's mother, who was called Mary Wollstonecraft. And it's a BBC Two documentary. It's about the history of art and culture over the last 800 years in Britain, and how that kind of art and history and culture, they come together and they all weave together in this kind of melting pot to create where we are now today in society.
That sounds amazing. I'm really interested in that, yeah. Do you know when that would be available?
Tailspin's still shooting and the BBC Two thing's just wrapped.
Obviously, you were filming during this pandemic then. How was that? Like, what are the differences in how a film set runs at the moment?
Well, you spend many days ahead of your actual filming being taken to base or to set to have a cotton bud stuck up your nose and down the back of your throat to check whether you've got COVID. That's the kind of glaring difference. And then on set, you know, people are really careful about wearing masks or wearing visors, especially around the actors, if we can't have a mask or a visor. And generally speaking, you can't, because you've had your hair and your makeup done
Yeah.
for the character, for the scene. So you can't kind of go and put a face mask on and then have to take it off. So there's kind of hierarchies of people who can and can't get onto the set around actors, as much for their safety as for ours, because of course I could have COVID potentially and not know about it, but obviously I'm not wearing a mask, so I'm not able to protect the grip or the gaffer or whoever. So everyone's just very careful, very cautious, 2 meters as much as possible, ventilation. But I just felt so lucky to be working, because of course 2020 was on the whole a very quiet and slightly disturbed year for everyone. And so if you are lucky enough to be working, I mean, kind of grab it with both hands and say thank you, I guess.
You mentioned that you also do writing. Is that screenwriting, or is that more novels and things like that?
So I started out mainly with poetry, actually, because I love poetry. Mainly with poetry, and then moving more into screenwriting, only short films at this point, but I have written a couple of short films. I'm sure both of them are terrible, but that's fine, because it's also an exercise in itself. Well, it's kind of also a creative exercise in itself, right? You have to learn how to write. You know, it's a job as much as acting. But I like to think I get a little bit better every time I try. And of course, being an actor, I read a ton of scripts, which I'm really lucky to have access to. So it makes me think about, oh, this is really interesting. Oh, I like the technique that they've employed. Oh, I like how they did that. And actually what I find really fascinating, and this is a tip that I would give any actors watching this right now, or directors, is get a script, read it. It could be anything. Let's say Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? Read the script. How do you imagine it? How do you say it? How do you visualize it? And then go and watch the film. And it's so interesting, because it'll always be different. It won't be better or worse or whatever. It might be better because we're talking about like Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, but it'll be different, right? But you'll learn something, you know. That's a really powerful exercise to kind of take into account. You know, I audition a lot, but of course I don't always book the job. No actor does, but I still like to go and watch the actor that got it and be like, okay, I see why they cast her. Okay, I get it was a different vibe or energy or age. It's always interesting. It's always learning, and learning's always interesting.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think that it's a really important exercise, because obviously who is chosen to direct and who's chosen as DOP massively affects the, you know, the outcome of the film, you know, and what it looks like visually. But it's ultimately the same story, which is interesting. So, you know, and you mentioned auditions there, you know, and not always getting every audition, as no actor does, obviously. What's your strategy for dealing with rejection?
Terrible at it. It's like, I wish I came to these interviews with like a really zen. I wish I was like, AJ, I've just discovered meditation, okay, and it's everything. Not at all. I get an audition, I get into a funk and a flap, either because I want it too much or I don't want it enough. Nothing's ever right or perfect, and then I send it in, and then I think I could have done that better, I could have done that better. And then if you get the job, you're like, wow, was no one else available? Because why did they pick me? Or sometimes you get the job and you're like, yes, that was a good audition. Like, I deserved that job. And of course, a lot of the time you don't get the job and you're like, how could they not see how good my tape was? How could they not see? And then you find out it went to someone really, really famous, like an Oscar winner. I don't know, Carey Mulligan or Keira Knightley or something. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what happened there. I don't deal very well with rejection, but I think the one thing I have learned, kind of growing up a little bit in the industry, there's always a reason, and you're never going to really know what that reason was. And it sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but they might have given it to the producer's daughter. It is very, very, very rarely personal as to why you won't book a job. So try not to take it personally. They may have gone for someone older, younger, taller, shorter, thinner, fatter, funnier, more serious, who knows. But if they've asked to see you, you get to assume that they're interested in whatever it is that you have to offer and will bring to the table.
No, I think that's really good advice. I think it can definitely be a difficult thing for any creative to accept.
How do you deal with it?
To be honest, I'm quite different from most people because I'm like, my background professionally is sales.
Mhm.
So I'm used to people telling me, jog on. So I actually don't care. Like, I'm just like, my attitude is on to the next one. Someone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I deal with rejection in all areas of life, to be honest.
It's a good, healthy attitude to have,
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of actor friends, and some of them do get really upset, after auditions and stuff. But for me, I tend not to put like that much like pressure, on myself. It's not that I don't care about the job; I want the job. But if they go with someone else, then they were obviously a better fit for the role, and I'm totally okay with that. I mean, I'm not going to be the best. I'm not going to be perfect at everything. Have you thought about producing anything that you've been writing?
So many people have said I should produce because I'm naturally very kind of organized as it is and good at getting stuff done. But I see the pain that my producer friends go through. And I just think, do I want that pain in my life? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have so much respect for the producers. It's unreal. I think they have a really hard job. And I would like to produce at some point, but I'd like to produce underneath other producers who really know what they're doing.
And after you've, ridden the acting train maybe a bit more and have, the connections that would really make your film, happen the way that you want it to happen. Have you attended film festivals, and how has that experience been, if you have?
Yes, I have. I've been to Cannes quite a few times, which is very big and very glamorous, and everyone looks very lovely, and it's very European. And then I've been to TIFF with a film called The Wife that I was in, and TIFF is kind of somewhere between what I imagine an American film festival to be. I've been to the Los Angeles Film Festival. That's really fun. Everyone was really nice. They have a great selection of films. So I've done a few, and then I've been to a few in London, obviously, as well. I think the European ones are probably the most glamorous.
I haven't actually been to Cannes myself. I've been to the AFI in LA, and that was awesome.
It's all about content these days. Ping it all to me, I'll pick out the good bits, and I'll put it all online. It's all the rage.
Why?
How did you find the networking opportunities that the film festivals provided you as an actor?
As an actor, if I'm honest, not that sensational. I think it's more about the films, and I kind of think that's okay, because that's why we're all there, right? We're all interested in cinema. So I think it's right that a lot of the focus is on the films and the filmmakers, because if you think about where the actor comes in the process, it's quite far down the line from commissioning a script, writing a script, getting it up to speed, attaching a director, having the right production company on board, and so on and so forth. What I would say, though, is if you are an actor who already knows a fair few people in the business, then what's great about going to a film festival is that you get to see them there again and speak to them and hang out with them and rack their brains and maybe have a drink or a meal or something like that. And I think that's a really good way of getting to know people in a more personal aspect, away from set, away from work, and I think that's a lovely thing about film festivals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess they would be more likely to remember you, if they've sat and had a drink with you and whatnot.
You do this job for 5 years, make next to nothing. But when you're done, they put you on board. They have ways to do it.
Who, the clubs?
Well, the syndicates who own the clubs, obviously.
Illegally too, obviously.
Oh, forget about it. I don't know why I'm
I
telling
mean, you
you
do
this.
know what that's like, don't you?
Well, we all need a dream, don't we?
Well, thank you so much. What I wanted to ask was just your final piece of advice for an aspiring actor. What would it be?
My final piece of advice for an aspiring actor would be make the work personal to you, but know that what you get back from the industry is never personal.
That's really good advice. That's literally a quote. Like, we're going to put that on Twitter. I'm not even joking.
You might need to say it back to me at some point, though, because I've already forgotten it. But it feels good. I guess what I mean is it has to be personal to you because you have to love what you do. But when you get faced with that rejection or that ambivalence or that cold, hard shoulder, don't take it personally, because it's not. And you just keep doing you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And audience, if you are still with us, please do subscribe, hit like, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this video.
Darling, treating him like that won't help anything.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on your favourite podcasting platform. Thank you.